Welcome to my first video. I am here to talk about my journey into like comic books and collecting and just kind of a general part of nerd culture that I wasn't really familiar with until my adult years, and really only in the past like year or so that I've started taking a little bit more seriously. Um, my name is Miss Nobody, and that means pretty much exactly what it sounds like. My opinions aren't really worth a whole lot. I'm not some big time like investor or anything like that, but I like what I like, and I like to talk to people about the things that I like. And that's not always easy to do. I'm from a podunk part of the South, and up until recently, you had to drive over an hour to get to any kind of comic book shop, and this kind of thing has not been accessible, to me growing up. So there's a lot of trial and error and learning how some of this works. And I've only just started really like keeping track of what's coming out and what's new, and really being able to go and find the things that I want to find and know why I want to find them. So this is a learning experience, and you're welcome to join me on it if you'd like. But if you don't, that's fine too. A lot of this is to document my own journey, and I just, would like to talk to some other people while I do it, if that makes sense. So, like I said, I'm from, Podunk part of the South. I grew up not really, like, we didn't have, like I said, comic book shops or anything like that. And just kind of the area that I was in, you didn't have nerds, that were cool. That was not a thing back in the day. So my main exposure to superheroes specifically was Saturday morning cartoons, some reruns, maybe rent a Batman like VHS from the movie store on Fridays. But like, that was it. Comic books, I didn't even really realize that they were a thing that most people had. I saw them on TV sometimes, but that was never something that I had like really seen people have in person until I was, a preteen, middle school, whatever. And so it wasn't until I was like 15 or 16 that I even really started getting into some of the nerd culture shit that I hold dear to my heart right now. It started with Lord of the Rings, and it graduated to Star Wars, and then, the Iron Man movies came out, and there was this whole different world kind of opened up. So I'd already kind of had some favorites, you know what I mean? Like, I've always loved the Hulk, and Martian Manhunter, and I had the biggest crush on Johnny Storm growing up. It was just, I knew who some of these people were, like I said, through cartoons and things like that. But it wasn't really anything that was something I was knowledgeable about in any way. So, and especially once, like, I'm ashamed to say, when the Iron Man movies were coming out specifically, there were a lot of movies that were coming out kind of like that at the time. There was Transformers, and then there was like Pacific Rim, and all of these like robot battle movies. And I was just over robot battles. And before I realized what kind of like mythos, I guess, was going to be built around those movies, I just kind of just stopped watching them. I went and saw the Hulk, the Edward Norton Hulk, and I believe I saw Captain America, and I had seen like the first of a lot of these movies when they were new, because we went to the movies all the time, and it was a new movie to go see. But it wasn't anything that I put specific attention into. So it's only been in the past couple of years that I've even like fully watched all of the Avengers movies and things, and so, like I said, my knowledge base is just from my experiences. Like, the first time that I really met somebody who, like, had comic books, I was in college. And, that was, I mean, I don't really know if I'm totally off on the years, but I think that I'm right in that. That's when, like, the Blackest Night, Darkest Day stuff was, like, brand new. And there were just a couple of books that were kind of given to me, like, you should read this, you should try this. And one of them was Miss Marvel's Secret Invasion. And that just like unlocked a love for Carol Danvers for me. So she was like my first person that I ever really read comics for. And I would come across some older ones sometimes, like some 90s ones or something. I couldn't even tell you, but I would read them because I just enjoyed Miss Marvel. And I think that was another thing too that kind of hurt my heart when the movies were coming out, is that Miss Marvel, like, they were doing Captain Marvel instead of doing like the old school Miss Marvel that I had come to love. So, I've given her another shot, and it's all good now. But that was a strike against watching the Marvel movies. To me back then. And so, then I was able to kind of read the Hulks and the things that I did like, or I knew that I kind of liked, and read The Killing Joke. That one made me tear up a little bit, but I didn't fully cry. The first comic book that made me like actually cry, I read Gwenpool last week, and I was just like boohoo tears by the end of it. And it was just like, it was a little too existential for me. But I do like that kind of the breaking the fourth wall and the goofy kind of thing. So, that's going to lead me to showing you who I personally am kind of collecting comic book wise. You're not going to find a lot of like major key issues or anything in her runs that I can tell. There's some significant things, but not, no major first appearances, no major, crazy something that's going to go for any kind of money, which is why I collect just the covers that I like. Hopefully I'm going to graduate to some of the more fancy or the Virgin variants and things like that. But that is She-Hulk. The Hulk, like I said, growing up was just my favorite, and She-Hulk, once I started like reading and learning about her and that kind of thing, and I didn't even hate the show. I mean, I thought it was, I went into it hoping that it was going to be more of a Law and Order kind of show. But once I kind of decided, okay, this is a comedy, then, I didn't hate it. That's just my 2 cents, and that's all I'm going to say about that. So this is the Demi Moore Vanity Fair homage cover. There's a couple of covers that they kind of, were towing the line on what they were and weren't allowed to do. So there's this one. There's one where she's just covered in like comic book pages or newspaper. I can't remember. And some other stuff like that were just a little risque. And so I want all these sensational She-Hulks that are like that. And then there's a couple other just covers that I've seen that I've liked. And so thankfully, she's not like totally forgotten in the cover game. I really like this one. This is the She-Hulk number 3, the Carnage Forever variant, and I just thought this was cool. I got this when it was new. I think that was last year, 2022 maybe. I found this at the store. And also, I probably should take this out of the top loader. I have them on a shelf, and the top loader looks better. And, of course, I need to get the Virgin variant of this. But, I like cool, interesting, pretty She-Hulk covers. I do have a couple more. I've got her last issue where she's talking smack about, or not talking smack, but talking about burning your X-Men kind of thing. Sitting up there. I've got, I think that was the last issue. And, some other things around. But those were what I was going to show just because I love her so much. I just think that she's, I don't know, I guess it's the girl power. She's smart, she's funny, she's pretty, she's blah, blah, blah. I just love it. So I'm also, before I show you kind of what I did yesterday, is going to show, this is actually, okay, I was a little off on my timeline. My first, really getting obsessed with anything superhero happened when I was in middle school. And that was when Teen Titans was on Toonami. And I was so obsessed with Beast Boy, it wasn't even funny. I couldn't even tell you why exactly now, other than I was some weird 13-year-old kid and whatever. Anyways, vicariously, I was obsessed with Tara, and I really loved that show. I think I've gone back and I've watched a couple episodes, and to me, it holds up. It's fun. And it really was like actually probably what got me into wanting to learn about superheroes that weren't like the big ones of the time, Batman, Spider-Man, and then let's see, this was 2003, so it was mostly Batman, Spider-Man, Superman. Everybody knew who they were. And then every now and then, like, a Ghost Rider would come out, and you'd hear in passing, "Oh, that's a comic book too." Like, that's how it was for me. I'm sure that's not everybody's experience, but that's the kind of sheltered, I guess, that I was growing up. So, anyways, I loved Teen Titans, and I loved Tara, and I have, had in the years between then and the time that I got this, done all my Wikipedia research on some things. I still hadn't read a whole lot, and even to this day, I haven't read a whole lot, but that is on my list of things. I just am using the Marvel Reader app right now, and instead of springing for the DC, because that seems like a little more expensive. But anyways, this is my first graded comic. This is a 9.6 of Teen Titans 26. This is the first appearance of Tara, and this was a gift from my boyfriend at the time, now husband. And I know the glare is awful. I do have a camera that I'm looking for. I just couldn't find it. And I knew if I didn't put this video out that I would never get this out of my system. So, anyways, this was my first graded comic. I don't know that there's anything that I would do to get rid of it, even though there's probably, to most people, this probably isn't worth a whole lot, but it's worth a lot to me. So, that is that. So, yeah, I'm sure that there's a lot more that I had planned to say and a lot more that I could say that was interesting, but, gotta flesh it out a little bit. So going into talking about learning how to go and hunt down things specifically that you want. I'm going to move this a little bit. Specifically like new releases and things that you actually are looking for. So there is a comic book, or there is a collectible store that opened in town recently that does have comic books. It's a small selection, and it's a small town, and people, they only get a couple of copies of some things. So that's why I'm not really sure how much to count that in my local comic book stores, though they will be a part of my my rotation, I guess, looking for places to shop. But you got to drive about an hour away to get to the next closest place to buy comic books. And I got there yesterday when they opened. I had a list that was given to me by my husband, and I had a list that I kind of was looking for. I found none of my stuff. Excuse me. I found none of my stuff. I found some of his stuff. And then there was one that both of us were eyeballing, that I did find too. So one of the things, I guess, that is more important than I realized up until recently, is the whole concept of let the hobby fund the hobby kind of thing. So there were a couple of books that I had kind of halfway on my radar, for that purpose. And one of those was Star Wars 34, specifically cover A, this one here. For some reason, I want to say I saw people like buying this at auction for like $100 in the morning. Now, by the time I got home, this thing had cooled down to $25, which is totally fine. I actually bought 2 copies of this. One is already packed away, about to get taken to the post office, and this is one that we are keeping. This is the first appearance of Greta and Dr. I want to say Cuomo was the name. I know that I couldn't really pronounce it very well, but supposedly, I guess there's speculation that this was a huge first appearance. I don't really keep up with the Star Wars extended universe that way. A little bit with Dr. Aphra, because everybody's heard her name by now. And a little bit with, like, you know, the Clone Wars and things, but I don't know that I would consider that extended universe so much. I'm talking, like, the novels and the comic books. I'm not super familiar with who they are or what's going on in the series. Maybe I should pick it up. I don't know. I saw pretty much the whole, half the run last one of the comic book stores I was at that I could have probably picked up pretty quick and cheap. Another one that I found I really liked. Everybody's been talking about this book too, and I know this isn't the Virgin variant or anything, but I really liked this artwork. This is the first issue of Hallows Eve. Hallows Eve, if you do not know for some reason by now, is well, I haven't read it, so I can't tell you exactly. But her powers come from these masks, and I think she reaches into her bag, and she, like, always just pulls out the one she needs. I don't think she chooses her masks, which, and that kind of thing is kind of cool. So this is actually one that I plan to read. I have another copy, like, that's not a variant cover. It's probably going to be the one that I actually physically read, but anyways. So, found Hallows Eve, number 1. I really like this artwork. I know it's so grainy on your screen, but she looks cool. And I'm sure that she's probably a little bit of a fad, but I'll be surprised with the hype that she's gotten right now if Disney doesn't jump on something, because it's Disney. Alright, so what we also got, this was a book that was on, not my list, but is very cool to find. Cult of Carnage Misery. Number 1, and this is the first appearance of Misery, who is a symbiote, who is apparently a mixture between Venom and Carnage. So I'm not exactly sure how that works. That's super cool. I would like to read this as well. This is one of the variants. This is a Lee. I've heard people say this name. I know who this is, but I know that I'm going to butcher it if I try to say it. So this is a very popular artist right now, for this variant cover of Cult of Carnage Misery. There's a couple other covers where there's one where she's, like, ripping through, like, a jungle, I guess, which is cool. There's another one that's just her in full symbiote glory, kind of similar to the She-Hulk Carnage variant that I showed earlier, which was also very cool. But this one was just pretty. There's also a variant that's got her, like, being surrounded by Carnage and Venom and, like, being turned, which is actually the one that I want personally. But I think that was a ratio variant, so I'm not really sure what that's looking like, you know, price-wise, especially not today. But I think when I looked yesterday, it was going for pretty much cover price, so that would be awesome to pick up. So there was, I guess, speculation this week that was confirmed that Spider-Boy, his first full appearance is in the Spider-Man number 8. And I have, let's see if you can see that. Nope. Alright, so I have 3 different versions of that. This is the Homager variant with Deadpool. And out here in the background, you can see random people. Wolverine's all knocked out on the ground. There's Cable running, Warpath doing something. So, you know, it's kind of a cool action scene in the background. And Deadpool just be like, hey, here I am. This is another variant. Oh, and this was a Liefeld variant, actually. I meant to say that. This one here is a Delgado variant. I thought so, but I was about to say Del Auto. And this is Electro going after Spider-Man, giving him a quite a shock off the building. And this is what happens when you get shocked by Electro. You end up half a skeleton. This is, I guess, the regular cover for that. I found all 3 of those. I found 2 copies a piece of those. I actually did see a couple more a piece of all that, but I wasn't, like, going places to buy things out. What I was doing, though, was, Oh, I did forget to mention the book. What I was doing though was finding something that I could kind of flip kind of quick and get my money back on, because sometimes you're spending money you don't necessarily need to be spending. And so that will fund the things that you actually want, right? So, I sold one set of these. Actually, I sold both sets. That's why I'm doing this video now, because I need to pack up those 3. I sold both sets of those, and I sold a copy of that Star Wars 34, but I also sold another copy, and I do not have one to show, but the Star Wars 34, there's a variant, I think Nato is the artist, that has Luke Skywalker kind of in, like a side has Leia in like a side profile and Luke Skywalker with his lightsaber. So, I sold that one as well, which allowed me to be able to buy this one. Let me get this out of the top loader real quick. So this is a 1 in 50 foil variant. Gosh, the glare is going to kill me. 1 in 50 foil variant of, oh God, I just forgot the name. What is it, Batman 160? This is actually like in legacy numbering the 900th, or Batman 900. So, and I was actually listening to somebody talk about some of the story and stuff that's in this, and I am super interested to read it. I do not know that I will read this one, since, like I said, this is a 1 in 50 gold foil variant, and it is awfully minty. And I am actually trying to get some books ready so we can send them to CGC. So I am very careful about doing anything with any books right now that may or may not mess them up, because I'm overly sensitive to those things at the moment. But anyways, this is just beautiful, and even with the, I don't want to take it out because I don't want to get fingerprints on it. It's kind of what I'm getting at. And I'm trying to make sure that you're avoiding the glare, and it's not working so well. But you got Catwoman cuddled up on Batman. And it's like a hollow foil just on their picture. And then this is more like a matted kind of thing. And apparently the story has Damien, I believe, Damien, going, like, somehow, like, going through different dimensions or something like that, and basically encountering every iteration of Batman, like all the different, Adam West Batman and the Val Kilmer Batman and all that kind of stuff for some reason or another. And that kind of thing. I love camp. I love campy. I love Batman because of the camp. I know he's gotten a lot more serious and a lot more gritty, and I love that Batman too, but really deep down in my heart, I'm an Adam West kind of girl. So that kind of thing is like super appealing to me, and so I'm going to find a copy of this that I can read. I saw some yesterday while I was out, but I did not really realize what it was that I was looking at in the regular cover, because I was specifically looking for this one. So anyways, that gets to stay here because I found the other stuff that I was able to kind of sell around, and so that's the kind of like wins that are exciting. Sometimes you kind of get, you see the hot 10 lists and the whatever, and all the books that I showed you were books you're going to see on the hot 10 lists for this week. But there were some that I just didn't even care about. Spider-Boy, I know some people are excited about Spider-Boy, but there's a new Spider something every week at this point. I'm tired of it. Now, I was actually looking for I think it's a 1 in 25 variant of the, is it Venom 2099 that's out, that had the first Venom 2099 and the first Carnage 2099. We are a symbiote loving household, but I wasn't really into any of the covers I saw on the shelf so much. It was really just if I saw the ratio unit, and that's not something that I came across. I ended up going to 4 different stores yesterday, one of which is a store that used to sell new comic books and no longer does. They only sell used comics, and that was a little surprising to me. But it is what it is. It's a secondhand bookstore, but it's just some place that will get new things in like that sometimes, and apparently they no longer do comics. I went to a smaller comic shop that's pretty well established. It's been around for a while, but it's really, the guy likes his figures apparently more than his comic books, but he does both pretty well. And that's where I found one of the Star Wars 34s that I showed you, a couple of the Spider-Boy variants, the Hallows Eve, and I found the Batman I found at another bookstore that's a little bit bigger, that's down the road from the smaller bookstore, and I think that's all I got there. No, I ended up finding one of the other. Basically, I got a set between those two stores of the Spider-Boys. I got one. I think I got the Electro at one, and then the Deadpool and the basic cover at another. So, it's a lot of piecemealing stuff together if I'm looking for something. I'm always on the lookout for a good She-Hulk cover, so I am always kind of rummaging through the bins there. I didn't really see anything worth noting. There's one that's kind of in the back of my mind, but it's not really one that I have a priority to get, so I wasn't really willing to, potentially miss another book like this Batman book for the sake of buying something that's not really a priority cover for me. So anyways, I guess that's all I've got. That was a lot of talking for me. And so yeah, I guess I'll be back here in a couple of days or next week or something with some more books that I got. I'm sure that I'll be back next week with the books that I get, because I do plan to try to play fetch a little bit with some of this and figure out what works best for me, especially when it comes to, I've got a book I really want, and maybe I don't want to spend or can't spare the money or whatever that week for it. And so, this isn't like hundreds of dollars or anything like that, but it's always nice to basically get a book for free, which I did by flipping the other ones, which was exciting. And that was just my first time like having that kind of thing successfully go. So anyways, I guess I'll see you around. Thanks for watching, if you made it this far. Now also, if you made it this far, is there anything that you think, somebody who is like a new comic book reader should read, like hit me up and let me know. There's, I know I mentioned like Secret Invasion, Blackest Night, and Killing Joke, and some of these bigger storylines, I guess, whatever you want to call it. That doesn't mean I've read all of them. I've read some, but there's going to be certain characters, runs of that storyline that I haven't read. So if there's one that I may have missed out on, I would rather know that than be like, oh, I've read all the important stuff. And I'm hoping to do kind of like a character summary, storyline summary type of video this weekend, if I can make my way through it without sounding like an idiot. So again, I guess if you made it this far, again, thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you again. Bye.